to figure out ultimately what is.
It's still a mystery as to why it took them. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Primetime Crime. I'm Lauren Conlin, and I am here, as always, with my co-host, Jarrett Ferrantino. Hi, Jarrett.
Hey, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good. We went live this morning for a bit about the horrible case of Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly. There was some breaking news there. So if you haven't seen, go ahead and check out our live videos. It's the most recent one. It really disturbed me. I was disturbed and upset all day, just learning what I learned, but go ahead and check it out. Hi, Sue. Good to see you. So we are going to start. We've got a packed show, but we're going to start with a special guest that we've had before, Mizzy Berry. She's so wonderful, and she has done so much to help the case of Sandra Birchmore. And again, we've talked about this case, how horrible it was. And at the end of August, Matthew Farwell was arrested. This is a federal case that's against him. It's huge. It's amazing. So I'm going to bring her up. We're going to go over some updates. And then, Jarrett, I'm going to pull up something that I didn't send you because Mizzy and I were just talking about it before, but it's only one page. We don't have the second page. Yeah, I'm missing the second page. But we'll find it eventually, but I'll pull Mizzy up right now. Hi, Mizzy.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Hi, Mizzy. Good to see you.
You too. I'm doing pretty good. You know, a smile's been plastered on my face for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, everybody is thrilled here. So let's go over. I mean, we know what's been happening thus far because Jarrett and I discussed it. It's not, some of this stuff is not new, but I do want you to sort of backpedal a little bit and just let us know everything that's been happening in your world since Farwell was arrested.
That first night, I did like 7 shows. It started in the afternoon, and it's kind of been a blur since then. It's slowly starting to, slow down, but I've talked to so many people and just trying to keep her story out there more, because this isn't the end. We need her story to stay out there, and just people want to know more information on her story. So we look at it, this is the beginning of that section of it. Now that he's arrested, we still have 2 other guys that we want off the streets too. And we have the whole process of them going through the case to get to the trial.
Right. And was there anything in the affidavit and just anything that was uncovered that shocked you? And I know that you're in touch with her family members, that really shocked her family as well.
The text messages, like to really see how vile and disgusting of a person he is. Mm-hmm. Just the depravity, that the depths of it was just, I knew that stuff was there, but I didn't know how bad it was. It was worse than what I was imagining. And
well, it's different when you see it in writing too. I mean, So his proclivities for young girls is spelled out in texts, and is now known to investigators. It's in the pleadings. I mean, this story just gets darker and darker. So that I would guess that was something that may have been rumored, but to see that in the affidavit had to be a shock to everyone in your group, right?
Yeah, because we knew that he had admitted about her being 15, but not to the extent and all the stuff that was admitted in those that we can see in those text messages. It's just was worse than we all thought, I think.
Yeah, I agree. People had told me, you're going to be sick to your stomach when you read it. And I just didn't, I'm like, yeah, I can handle it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I have a daughter. I just like, you just feel so bad when young women don't have anyone in their life. And, her mom was, she passed away and her grandma passed away. And it's just terrible because these people were the people that she trusted. They were the people that were supposed to be role models for her. And now look, she's not with us. Her unborn child is not with us. And it's heartbreaking. So I want to go through, I guess, some of these motions a little bit and with you as well, Mizzy, because Jarrett is so good at explaining them in terms that we all can understand and just what's coming next. Wait, Jarrett, what are you going to say?
I was going to say, sometimes explaining these things is how I get to understand them, but thanks for the compliment.
No, it's so I'm just going to share the screen for this one page of a recent filing of Farwell and his team. 1 second. It's on reporter Michelle McPhee's page. Can you guys see this?
I can. It's just going to look like I'm not looking at the screen. Could you zoom in on the title of that?
Let me see. Well, you know what? I realized that, Jarrett, you're not at your computer. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to text this to you.
Okay.
So you can see this, and then
let's see. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Texted to you. And so what this is, it's the order of voluntary detention. And I'll just read it out loud. Defendant had a detention hearing scheduled for September 12th, 2024. Defendant, represented by counsel, filed a motion asking that the court enter a voluntary order of detention and cancel the detention hearing. Accordingly, it is ordered that the defendant be detained pending resolution of this matter, and is further ordered that the defendant be committed to the custody of the Attorney General for confinement in a corrections facility. The defendant be afforded reasonable opportunity for private consultation with counsel, and an order, on order of court of the United States on a request by an attorney for the government, the person in charge of the corrections facility in which the defendant is detained and confined deliver the defendant to an authorized deputy United States Marshal for the purpose of any appearance in connection with a court proceeding. So, sorry, this was not Farwell's team, obviously. Maybe I imagined seeing one from Farwell's team. It could be that. If anyone in the chat knows what I'm talking about, or
let's start with the detention of Farwell. Let's talk about that generally. Okay, so this is, I need to see the second page, but the bottom line is this: in the federal system, let's break down what's going on here. So there is a detention hearing that would have to have been held following the arrest of Matthew Farwell. And that hearing is basically, you need to appear in front of a federal judge and show the judge why you need to keep Matthew Farwell incarcerated while he's facing these charges. What is it about him especially makes him a flight risk or a danger to society that he has to sit in jail? Here's what the United States government has said. Here's a couple of the highlights from that filing. So basically, generally, they're saying Farwell should not be let out of jail pre-trial. Here's why. Number one, in his home, he and his wife have 10 guns total that are registered to them. That's in the document. The second thing is, it talks about the painstaking steps that Farwell took to groom Sandra Birchmore. The motion talks about the years and how early in her life this started and how very young she was when he began to have a sexual relationship with her. They cite the fact that he lied to law enforcement, that he tried to cover up his crimes. All of these things feeding into the fact that he's a danger to society. The fact that he planned this murder, that he asked her to delete information from her phone prior to the murder, knowing full well he was ultimately going to kill her. The fact that he timed the murder prior to a snowstorm, ironically like the Reed case, but not that she timed it. But some of the other facts, it talks about his proclivity for young girls. It talks about the violent nature and the choking that went on between he and Sandra Birchmore during sexual relations. They talk about the fact that he was a police officer in the Explorer program, that he was in the United States Army, that he has training in explosives. All of these things together, okay, are a reason that Matthew Farwell must remain incarcerated. And by the way, the United States rehashes all the facts of the case and says, we're pretty certain we got the right guy and that he murdered Sandra Birchmore. all of those things before a judge, they're going to look at that and say, yeah, Matt, you're not getting out. You're going to sit back in your jail cell till we get to trial. That's what was scheduled. That request that you just gave me is a voluntary incarceration situation that may be an order that a judge would sign or something the defense would sign knowing full well he wasn't going to get let out.
Okay. I guess I was confused at why they canceled it. I guess that they're just like, yeah, we know he's not going anywhere. This is not going to happen.
Well, that could be it. That could be it. And his lawyers, look, these guys do this every day. They look, if you look at that document, it's 18 pages. It's just, it's death by 1,000 cuts for the character, the man, the cop, the soldier, the husband, the father that Matthew Farwell claimed to be. I mean, it's literally, it takes this guy apart at the limbs. It's
funny too. You would think that, I don't know, if I was in jail, I would want any chance to just get out and just go to even a court hearing, anything. But I guess maybe he knows how hated he is and how the media frenzy would be insane around that courthouse. And he would be very shamed and embarrassed. But let's take a break from the legal filings for a minute. And Mizzy, you recently had a conversation with Lieutenant Fanning. Can you share anything about that?
Well, actually, it was an old conversation, but yes, I can share about it.
Okay.
It was about a year ago, and he lied to me. He told me that Fanning was very careful in his texts. He said that Farwell didn't say much in his texts that were incriminating. He said he was so careful. The way he said it, he was so careful. He didn't say anything bad in those texts. There's nothing we can really use. There was nothing he was saying that was incriminating. And when I saw those texts, I was livid. Like I knew through the conversation we talked about 45 minutes. And I knew that he was kind of trying to not butter me up, but kind of, yeah, kid, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how much he was lying in the conversation we had. And specifically that one I'm livid about because they had these text messages.
So, well, wait. So do you think they had them, or didn't Farwell wipe his phone and then give Guarino that phone, and they found the feds found the other messages on Sandra's devices, or no? Okay. So they had
them from Sandra's devices this whole time. So over 3.5 years, they've had these text messages. They've had everything. And they did not do anything with this man.
Well, you know why? They had their declaration that it wasn't a homicide, it was a suicide. And essentially in their mind, they weren't investigating a murder, at least in their mind again. And they were just going to let that rest and go away. That's what they hoped for, I think.
Oh my gosh.
But Fanning should have never been on this case. He should have recused. He was a former Stoughton police officer. He worked with Robert Devine. When he was at Stoughton Police Department, the Farwell brothers were working, not working. They were part of the Explorers program. So he probably would have had contact with them because they were at the station all the time. And so they're all from Stoughton. Farwell was a detective, so I'm sure he worked with the detective unit with the Massachusetts State Police because they're in the same town. So they probably worked together. I know they worked with the district attorney's office, and that unit is under Michael Morrissey in that office. So they had to have known him. Farwell was the head of the patrol union in Stoughton. So he had a lot of connections and in the area for he should have never been on the case.
Have any locals seen William Farwell around town, around the Stoughton, Canton area, Dedham area? I'm just wondering. No one.
Not that I know.
No one spotted them. Has anyone? Okay, go ahead.
Still in New Mexico, as far as I know.
Yeah. And what about Matthew Farwell's wife? I felt really bad for her throughout this whole thing as well.
Not that I know of.
Don't you feel horrible for her? I just feel so horrible for her too. She must just be like, oh my gosh. I mean, I would assume she had no idea that her husband is a monster. Allegedly. Sorry. Allegedly.
Yeah, but this has been out for, this has been going on since 2021. The internal
Agreed.
report was released. So she had to have had some inkling of what he was up to. I feel bad for the children. I don't want to talk much about them, but that his son was with him when he was arrested. That's who I feel bad is for, his children.
I didn't know that. That's terrible. Oh no. I'm going to pin this question. What do you think the odds are this voluntary detention plays into the potential that Farwell is negotiating with the U.S. attorney for a lesser charge, one without the federal death penalty in return for testimony versus Morrissey? And Jarrett Morrissey is the DA. What do you think about that?
Well, that's a couple of, so Chip, great question. There's a couple of leaps there.
No plea.
I don't know. That's a little bit of a bridge too far. Anything's possible, but I could tell you this case is laser focused on Farwell. I mean, he would have to give up the sun, the moon, and the stars for some kind of a break on the murder of Sandra Birchmore after what he's put the departments through and the investigators through and what he's done to the reputation of the good police in that area. His credibility is shot. If this is somebody you're going to put on the stand, you have him destroying evidence. You have him encouraging witnesses to lie. You have him disgracing the badge. I mean, this is not the witness you want if they're building some kind of larger corruption case. So, Chip, I would think that's a little bit more reading into it. Again, anything's possible, but let me tell you something. If I'm the DA and I'm looking at this, I am laser focused on Farwell and anybody else who put their hand on Sandra Birchmore.
That's a really good point. Nobody wants an alleged pedo for a witness and to break open another corruption case.
A disgraced cop lying pedo. I mean, he literally touches every base.
Yeah,
that's so true. Oh my gosh, a murdering pedophile. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, good luck with him as your witness, and somebody who would have gotten a deal in Chip's scenario too. So now he's biased, compromised, a liar, alleged pedophile, and disgraced cop.
Yeah, no, totally. So Mizzy, what do you predict here? What do you predict happening next from what you're hearing? I know that you're in New Hampshire, you're on the border state, but I know that you're in touch with a lot of locals. What do you predict that's going to happen next in town with the police department? Have you heard of any shakeups?
No, in Canton, we believe that there's Lieutenant Gallagher. He retired. Mm-hmm. He was in the chain of command with like up above, Lank and the officers who attended Sandra's investigation, and but not really a lot of shakeups. We're just hoping, with my role and the people who help protest and stuff, we're just going to keep the pressure on them. I do think there's one issue, as far as I know, the Canton police chief has not said a word about this arrest. Yeah. And I find it disturbing that, this young woman was murdered in your jurisdiction and your police officers went there and said it was a suicide, and you say nothing.
Lank. Yeah. I mean, no, Lank is not Canton. I'm sorry, but
there he is.
Oh, he is? I thought he was MSP. Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, he's Canton. He was a sergeant that was called to Sandra's scene.
Okay. Yeah. No, I remember. Jarrett, this is a federal case. It's a murder case. Farwell, the other Farwell, William Farwell, and Robert Devine, that would be more of exploitation of a minor, sexual assault of a minor, whatever. Would that also be a federal case here? Because no one in Massachusetts had really done anything about this. They basically gave them a slap on the wrist and said, hey, you're fired and we're stripping you of your badge and you can't ever be a policeman ever again or an officer ever again. Like what, I mean, you know what I mean? Like what is going to happen with them? Is that going to be federal?
So are you asking whether or not are they likely to be indicted by the feds? Is that what you're asking me?
Or or what do you think?
So
I mean,
I don't know the scope of their investigation into to other Farwell and Divine, but look, if the feds want to get you, they're going to find a way to bring you into their realm. And where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of it here. So there are a couple different ways they can assert jurisdiction and bring those other two, if they're found culpable and liable of violating certain federal crimes, into and under indictment. So, yeah, I mean, look, we know they're looking at this. They didn't make a secret out of the fact that they were looking into Matthew. So once they have all this information, all the text, you can bet Sandra kept her texts with Divine and the other Farwell. So who knows where it leads? There are certainly applicable federal charges if they were truly sexually involved with her and exchanging texts, and they can document it began at a certain age. There's certain communications that would bring that into the realm of the federal authority. So I don't know. I mean, it's very likely they're being looked into. What happens to them in this whole thing, I don't know. I mean, it's more of a question of who's bringing the charges, not if.
Right. They're coming. They're absolutely coming for these two men, whether it's state or federal or both. We just don't know yet. I have a feeling it'll be soon. I feel like they obviously had to get Farwell off their plate. Clearly, that was the biggest thing for them. But I think that they're coming soon. They have to be. They have everything. They literally have everything. So, I mean, I guess we'll just wait here.
Yeah.
They don't run out of time or money, they say.
With William, they might be building a trafficking kind of case with him too, because he was introducing her to other men, and he was making her exchange videos and photos of their activities with these other men.
Yeah. So that's and again, these are all allegations. We should just clear that up. But if that's true, again, like I said, that would bring, and these things were shared on devices, and these things were shared through servers and the such, that brings it into federal realm, so federal territory. So be patient. They don't run on our timetable, and they don't run out of money. So, or resources, quite honestly. So it may take a little time because, like we said, I mean, there are components of this that just keep evolving and coming out. I think they put a great case together against Matthew Farwell. It's clear they did a ton of work. And I always look toward, is it just, the text? Is it what physical evidence do you have? What witnesses do you have? It really comes together, and the picture is painted very vividly in that 45-page affidavit that we went over when Matthew was charged. And that's just the beginning. There's a lot more.
Mizzy, do you have anything coming up? Any rallies, any peaceful protests, anything that you want to shout out?
Yeah, on the 21st, we are doing a standout in it's actually where Canton, Sharon, and Stoughton all meet. So it's an intersection there. You can get all the details if you go to the justiceforsandrabirchmore.com page. And please, if you have time, it's a Saturday, 12 to 3. If you have time, please come. We need to have a big showing, because we want people to realize that this isn't the end. We need these other two men charged, and whoever else was part of this needs to be charged also.
Anyone part of this alleged cover-up and just making excuses for these people, everybody should be charged. I'm so angry about it. Mizzy, you stay on with us for a minute, because I want to pivot here to some Michael Proctor business. Well, actually, because I feel like this is all, I don't want to say it's connected, but it's the same area. But I was just tweeting before we got on about, it's impounded right now, but Karen Reed's legal team did file an appeal of Judge Cannoni's decision, and they appealed to the Supreme Court. And I thought something was interesting about this. They were citing that they wanted a motion. There's a sealed sidebar transcript from May 24th that they want. And I was like, May 24th. And I just was Googling some things, and I was like, oh, Brian Higgins testified on May 24th. So I don't know what that means, but yeah, let's see. And I mean, I'm just so interested to know if the Supreme Court is going to be like, you know what, you're right. But they're essentially saying that her double jeopardy rights are violated or something, Jarrett. I don't know if you have anything to say about
that's
that.
a complicated one. Well, they're saying basically that she was acquitted based on the information provided by these jurors, and rebringing this case and retrying her constitutes double jeopardy. And they're taking it up to the next appellate level here, which is their superior court, I believe, right? Or are they at the Supreme Court?
It was the Supreme Court.
Yeah, because their lower court is called the superior court. So that would be their... Yeah. So again, that's what you would do. And those are the folks that are best to look at that particular issue. Like, they're going to look at, again, we always end up on this Karen Reed path, but
dude, things are happening.
Double jeopardy
things are happening in Massachusetts.
Right. So double jeopardy is basically you really cannot hang on trial for the same offense if you were acquitted. Mm-hmm. And that's one component of it. And they're going to take the position that the information they have collected from the jurors in trial one establish, in fact, that the judge got it wrong. She was acquitted. This is double jeopardy, no trial two. What the Supreme Court's going to do with that, time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, I have to think that the Supreme Court might err on the side of, hey, all this evidence, you guys might be right. I don't know enough Massachusetts case law here to cite anything differently, but I just, from the outside looking in, it seems to me that they're not giving up on this. And I think that's pretty awesome. I would want them as my team. They're not stopping anytime soon, right?
Oh, those guys are pretty confident.
Yeah. This is, I don't know. So Taryn, Jarrett he's not as psycho, I guess, as all of us. No, I'm just kidding. But he doesn't follow, I think, certain tiny details of the case. Like Jarrett, this says, I want to know what Jarrett thinks about Kevin Albert's IA investigation and how the Canton Council didn't give any details. I thought Kevin Albert was back on the job as of today or something. I could be wrong. I haven't really brushed up on that, but I'm almost certain that he's back on the job. But I feel like more is coming with that. Mizzy, what do you think about Kevin Albert?
I was kind of, because I saw the clip of the select board, and I was shocked that they didn't say what their findings was, at least that, so the public can know. I'm hoping that if it's FOIA, somebody will get it, but I have a feeling that FOIA will be denied.
I have a feeling too.
Yeah, it'll be denied.
Yeah. No, I totally.
But I don't know. And again, not that I am enthusiastic about the Karen Reed case, but I don't know. I know that there was an IA investigation into Albert. I really don't know what's been reported on that. So I would be out of my comfort zone. So.
No, I mean, it's fine. I feel like, I don't know, things pop up about this case literally left and right. And so what I'm going to do here is, so Michael Proctor recently, Jarrett, I sent you the cell phone, whatever that motion was. I don't know if you're prepared to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, essentially that Morrissey's office is not turning over the full extraction of Proctor's phone. And he's taking the position that there are other cases that are discussed and other matters that are privileged due to their nature that they cannot be turned over. It cannot be turned over in its entirety. In fact, it should only be turned over with regard to matters that are relevant to the case at hand. So here's how you solve that problem, by the way, in case anybody from up there is watching, because I've been down this road. You take the phone. You have the court appoint a neutral third party, okay? That party, another judge, a retired judge, with a lot, give that person a.
Did he freeze? He totally froze. No, I wanted to hear this. Damn it. He totally froze for me. I'm going to text him right now. We were like, I was so into this. Hold on.
So they determined.
Jarrett, you froze.
I heard his voice.
Me too. You froze.
I suspect he's talking about a taint team.
And he's still going. That's the worst part.
Oh no.
Hold on. I texted him. I'm like, don't stop talking. Stop talking. And then stop talking. Oh.
I was afraid I was going to freeze because my internet
mine is horrible today too. Like I said, my kids are watching a movie in the other room and it kept freezing. And I'm like, damn it, not now. This is so annoying. All right. He'll probably sign back on or in a minute, but no, he's rebooting, but no, he does like talking about Reed. Okay. He does like talking about Reed. He's sick of it. I mean, I guess everybody has their point, but I wasn't sick of it. I just wasn't super, I was so excited about the 2020 special all day. And then I was very disappointed after. So it was, but that's for another time.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, there you are. You froze.
Where did I freeze? Where?
Okay. I was afraid you were like still going and you were, but
I was, but
and we were like on the edge of our seat.
What was the last thing I said?
You give the third party the phone.
Right. You said appoint a judge.
Boy, I said a lot. So
you said they could appoint a judge.
Yeah, a third party
judge okay. So you would appoint a judge and a law clerk. Okay. Neutral to review that phone, and they parse out what information has bearing on the case at hand. They discard the other information. That's what needs to be done here. Okay. And why you wouldn't turn over his full phone isn't to protect Proctor. It's actually to protect good investigators and investigators that are actually doing their jobs on other cases. You cannot just turn over somebody's whole cell phone. It would be improper in this context, but you can put certain guardrails in place that will allow for the information relevant to this case to be provided to the defense.
Okay. And do you think that will happen?
I think it should. I think that's the answer. And I think that's the thing Morrissey's struggling with, because it's really no different than if I had a case, and I've had cases that got really, really heated and discovery requests were flying back and forth. And somebody's like, well, I want this person's phone, or I want this person's whole case file, or every case they're working on. It's like, well, are you nuts or what? Like, it has no bearing on what we're doing. Like, so what we've done, they call it a Chinese wall. Okay. You build that wall and you wall off that neutral party who's reviewing the information. That person should have enough information on the Karen Reed case, for example, that they know what they're viewing is relevant to the case and would be relevant to consideration by the defense. And then that information is turned over. It's a way to preserve the sanctity of the private information of other investigations. And I know people will run wild with that, saying, oh, there's other things on Proctor's phone. It's not just about Proctor. We've got to think about, what if your loved one, is a victim of a crime, and that case is under investigation, and there are compromising photos or private text messages that have no bearing on the case of Karen Reed. All of a sudden, her lawyers and individuals and people that shouldn't have that information, private personal information, have it. We got to protect the sanctity of these other cases. And that's not because I love Proctor and think he did such a bang up job.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, who cares about him? No, I'm just kidding. I get it.
You got to think about the chilling effect it has going forward. When we start that bullshit, forget it. Forget it. You know, right. I'm going to get one of those ladybug phones. What do they call where there's like no text? It's just big numbers.
Oh, yeah. Those commercials. But it's
like, we have to recognize the way we live our lives, technology, what's contained. And I live my life. My life is attorney-client privilege. I have files in my office with protected information. I have emails on my phone with protected information. It's just the way we live our lives. And if I'm getting a request for information, there's certain files that wouldn't be turned over in a request, because you have to protect and compartmentalize those investigations. It's just that simple.
I mean, am I wrong to be like, oh, cool, now you guys want to protect your investigations? Now's a good time to do it after all this? Cool, thanks. It just feels
well, there's a bigger picture, but I'm just saying in looking at why you would not want to just carte blanche turn that whole thing over. It's really the impact it would have down the road. And there may be somebody saying like, oh, well, why would the investigators have to worry? Like, well, give me your phone. I'll start going through your phone. Or well, all your private stuff. Like, come on. You know,
well, look what happened last time to Michael Proctor. He totally has reason to worry, clearly.
But those things, every one of those texts in my scenario and in my solution would have been turned over because they were about Karen Reed. So in that case, he would not have escaped the unpleasantness of his testimony or the fact that they came into that trial.
So are they gonna have to do this on every case that he's worked on? Like, because they sent out I believe it's called Brady violation notices to like a bunch of cases he's on. So are all these lawyers gonna have to do the same thing?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the fight is and what the nature of the case and his role was. But if there's I mean, we had a judge go bad in the county where I was from, and they tried to upend every decision that the judge ever made. Yeah, I mean, the answer, Mizzy, is you got to do it. You got to do it. So, welcome to Law and Order, right? But when you have a situation like this, you can only imagine that every inmate in a jail cell that Proctor put there thinks they have a key now to get out, and you're going to have to litigate that. I don't know how many of those have merit. I certainly hope they don't, but we'll see.
Right. And so, go ahead.
You just worry about the big cases like Brian Walsh.
That's where I was gonna go to.
That case it's like what he's accused of allegedly doing is like crazy. And now this case to me is like slightly in jeopardy. I believe
it's a concern
that he's not on the case. They've pulled him totally off the case, but the defense is going to call him.
That's so funny. That was on my list for tonight, but it was announced that Michael Proctor will not be testifying in the Brian Walsh trial, and the defense should call him, but it's horrible. I mean, imagine he has to just also read those texts again on the stand just to prove what a dipshit he is. Like this is going to haunt him forever. But you're right. That case, even though there's no body in that case, everything points to Brian Walsh. Everything points to his guilt, in my opinion. I mean, Google searches, he's a dumbass. He is just, it's awful. So for that to be said, and that I think they're calling it something else, not the lead investigator. They're calling it like a caseworker or something. I don't know why they changed that, but for all intents and purposes, he is the lead investigator. And for him not to testify, Jarrett, how the hell does that look for the Commonwealth?
Well, I've never ever tried a case without my chief investigator as my main witness. So, good luck. I don't know how you do it, but it's not. And again, like Mizzy said, you could call him. The defense could call him. They have the right to call him. He is relevant. He has relevant knowledge likely to lead to evidence in the case. He's coming in if the defense wants to use him. It just shows you, though, how somebody's stupid decisions echo throughout these cases. Like the impact one person going bad in their job can have, like the whole house of cards, and very bad people who were convicted, their cases could be in jeopardy. Now, I'm hoping they can overcome that. But here's the other thing. Now you're tying up resources again. You have all these victims' families worried again. You have the courts tied up again. I mean, it's just because people make stupid decisions.
Yeah. And Tommy, it's not funny, but he said, well, now that we know Google searches aren't accurate, and that's a huge part of Walsh's case, I mean, think of what defense attorneys can take from Karen Reed's trial. I mean, they can be like, oh, you guys are using Cellbrite? Well, you said Cellbrite wasn't accurate for that. I mean, it's just like, can you imagine just all of the weirdness just trickling through? Could that happen, Jarrett?
Well, and I've used Cellbrite in my cases, and I mean, I have. There are very few cases now that don't have cell phone technology. So
Mhm.
anybody watching that's a cell phone expert or thinking about what to major in college, go become a forensic cell phone expert. You're never going to not have work. But
Oh,
I
interesting.
think it is such a interesting and foreign language, the time stamping, the geolocation data,
Yeah.
the all of that stuff. So I think that stuff is going to continue to be a huge part of any homicide investigation, drug investigations, trafficking investigate, everything. I mean, you could tell. I had a case where uh, an individual was wearing an Apple Watch, and his heart rate during a robbery shot up. So we have the time on. So the robber was committing the crime. He was masked, uh, but his time on the robbery video and his watch coincide. And wouldn't you know it, his heart rate spikes through the roof
Yep.
during the murder. So like these are things people never thought about.
Yeah, definitely. And part of me is, this is obviously making the news, it's making headlines, and it's just like I don't feel bad for Proctor only because he was a seasoned investigator. He should know better in sending text messages like this. I mean, really, he should have known better. But another part of me is like, I mean, he has to relive this every day at this point. I mean, he and his family, his wife, his children, I don't know how old his children are, but again, like you said, Mizzy, you feel bad for Farwell's children. I feel bad for his children too. If they're, they must be
But
young, they must,
What
but
what can't be lost on this, though, is Proctor, and let's not. I mean, Proctor believed Karen Reed was guilty, and so do a lot of people.
he
He
didn't say it
believes
in
she was
court when
right, but again, he believed that very strongly. He's talking, he's saying these stupid things via text, and all of a sudden, you see how the tables can turn on you. Is my point too? It's like,
yeah, I think that he was given multiple opportunities on the stand to backpedal and say, "Look, I just texted that because I was so upset that she killed a brother or allegedly
right,
killed a brother in blue. That's why I was so mad." And also, when they gave him opportunities to apologize, he just wasn't genuine. He wouldn't say, "I said this, I'm sorry." He's like, "It was such an inappropriate thing to say," or something like that. He had opportunities to just kind of make it right. He didn't once, he didn't ever, in my opinion. But that's why I'm just like, if he would have said that, Jarrett, like, I thought that she did it, and John is a brother, John was an officer, he didn't.
that
So
would have been my answer to every question, by the way. Every
what?
question they asked me, "Did you say this?" "Yes, I believe she killed one of my brothers in blue." "Yes, I
Yeah,
believe that. I
or
was angry."
yeah,
Every question,
yeah.
and it would have been struck at some point, but that would have been my answer. Anyway, that's my
Yeah,
thought.
no, so yeah, he didn't impress me, and will continue not to impress me. But Mizzy, thank you so much for joining us. And I put the Justice for Sandra Birchmore.com website in the notes. So everyone should go to the site, join the Facebook group, join Instagram, Twitter, follow Justice for Sandra Birchmore pretty much everywhere for updates on the case. The Facebook group is great for filings as well. I'm very grateful for everything you do
And
because
Mizzy, before you go, great work.
Thank
It's
you.
people like you and the members of your group that keep the attention on these cases. And as you may know, I represented the family of Brittany Drexel in the pursuit and the 13-year fight to find Brittany. I had the honor of doing that, and people like yourself kept the fight going, and that is so important. So enjoy this moment and keep fighting for justice for everybody else involved.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Thank you
yeah,
for having me back again. It was
you're
great.
amazing. Really, like I said, I look to you, and you've just been so incredible with the updates and just keeping us all just well versed on everything that's going on. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'll have you back soon for sure.
Okay. Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
All right. So I guess we should move to Crazy Land. Sarah Boone. Jarrett, we have never talked about Sarah
We
Boone.
haven't. I know we've been so busy with everything else, but I have been watching this thing. We never talked about it, even offline. So
I know. It's weird. It's weird.
So Ms. Boone was involved in a relationship with George.
Yeah, I mean, George
take us
Torres
through-
Jr.
So she was involved in a relationship. This is the suitcase case that everybody talks about. Basically, she claimed they were playing hide and seek. Mr. Torres gets in a suitcase. She zips him in the suitcase, and he suffocates and dies. And there is video of him being locked in the suitcase with her joking and laughing while he's in there. He's saying to her, "I can't breathe in here." And he keeps saying, "Let me out. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe." And she is charged with his murder. And she has gotten on this hamster wheel of representation. She's onto her 10th lawyer right now. She's going to trial on October 7th, I believe. She represented herself for a time. She's no fool. I've encountered defendants like this. I've encountered defendants that are so bright, they're dumb. Okay.
I feel like people in the chat, so you haven't probably watched some of the interviews where she actually says, like, and Sue, I know that you have seen this. She says, "I excel at everything. I was a straight A student." She says over and over how I am such a good mom. She will tell you how smart she is. However, when she wrote her own motions, and by the way, this is her 9th lawyer, and she was writing her own motions about 2 months ago, and she was just copying from a law book.
It was the Bill of Rights. She copied the actual Bill of Rights. And let me say this.
What?
She's no dummy, but I've encountered criminal minds like this. I know what they're dealing with. It is brutal. She is the smartest person in that jail. She's smart enough to know that she can maneuver around representation. It's not easy to go through 8 lawyers. A judge can tell you on the first lawyer, you have a court-appointed lawyer. You don't have a choice with who represents you, okay? She has said all the right things. She's hitting all the buzzwords. Then she represents herself. And then if you've ever seen her examining the witnesses against her, like she's actually conducted preliminary hearings, pretrial hearings in this case. She's one of these people that you get inside a mind like that and they could become violent. They are not remorseful for their conduct typically, and they are brutal to deal with because like I said, she knows just what to say. Now she recruits an attorney to represent her. She had a poster that she prepared, basically calling out to the lawyers of the world, you're not going to make money, but you're going to get national attention, and you got to put up with a tough client, etc. That's basically what this thing said.
So, you know what's perplexing, by the way? She did say it would be pro bono, but the other day, her attorney outside of the Florida courthouse, he actually said, "This is what went down. Reporter, are you doing it pro bono?" Owens, "I have been retained. I'm not doing it pro bono." Reporter, "Who's paying for it?" Owens, Sarah owes me. Sarah owes me. And so I'm not quite sure what that means because the court did find her to be indigent, and that is what allowed her to have court-appointed public defenders. So I don't really know what does that mean? Sarah's paying me, Sarah owes me? That's weird, right?
Look, I don't know what that means. I mean, the bottom line is she now has a lawyer that appears to be willing to take this thing to trial. However, here's the predicament they're in now. All the BS along the way, okay? They're on the eve of trial, and this judge is clearly frustrated. He cited an opinion that he wrote back in June, where he goes through the entire procedural history of the case, and he goes through painstaking detail, setting the table up for any appeals court that looks at this and says, "I am going to tell you I bent over backwards to accommodate her requests for a lawyer. This is what she's done every time. We've tried to have her evaluated. We've had experts retained. They've had experts retained. She has run interference at every pass. Here we are again on the eve of trial, and a new lawyer shows up and says he needs more time to, guess what, get experts, right? Here we go again. Now, here's the problem here, okay? If those expert evaluations were not consummated and completed and turned over to the prosecution so they can have an expert rebut it, you're never going to be ready to go to trial October 7th. And even if they do, they're not going to be ready, and you still run the risk of this thing being overturned. Because, like it or not, although she's bright, I think she's a lot crazy too. Okay, not insane, but crazy. So dangerous combination. So smart and not crazy enough. It's not going to be pretty when you start looking at her actual defense here. When they say we were handicapped by her own internal demons who allowed for this delay to happen and our inability to get her properly evaluated. That's a problem. Because clearly, look, there's a couple things going on. Either she's crazy, or let's assume for a moment she has battered woman syndrome, like she's claiming. Let's assume for a moment that's true, okay? I know that's controversial, but let's assume for a moment that's true. If that's true, the only way to prove that is through psychiatric testimony and a proper evaluation. And the lawyer that's going to present that information has to have the time to digest it and work with that witness. And the prosecution has to have the time to review it and rebut it. So if Ms. Boone is entitled to that defense, and she may very well be, she needs the time to work with this lawyer and get it done.
She's not getting it. The judge already said.
Well, then the case could be in jeopardy. That's the concern.
That's her fault, though. Don't you agree? That's all her fault.
But if she's, but there's a caveat to that. If she's crazy, okay, it's not her fault. It's actually
if she's insane, right?
Not insane. If she's psychiatrically compromised, the delays are the result of a person who was in no position to represent themselves or participate in their own defense, and these delays were a result of her condition. That's a problem from an appeal standpoint. I'd rather give this guy 4 or 5 more months to get this case ready, do it right. That's my thought. That's the fear here, because I've been on this hamster wheel. I've had people firing lawyers, and one case I went through, a guy went through like 11 or 12 lawyers. He represented himself. It was a circus. All the while he was saying he wanted to go to trial. Me knowing full well, if we go, we're dead, because it's just going to be kicked back. Like, I understand the judge is frustrated, and believe me, judges they're very protective of their calendar. He's done all the right things, but if she is psychologically infirmed, as she appears to be, this could be in jeopardy if he forces it to go forward without her current counsel having the opportunity to have her evaluated. Just my thought. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'd rather go forward. I'd rather go forward with the peace of mind to know they had the opportunity, even if it's just 4 or 5 more months.
So you're saying if they, and I don't want to say rush, because this is not rushed, obviously, because of all of what she's done with her attorneys, but you're saying with the new attorney, if they rush this, which would appear that they're not getting more time, you're saying they could appeal a decision that the jury makes. They will. Okay.
But here's the other thing. The judge is saying, well, you cite this doctor who evaluated Ms. Boone, but she's not on a witness list that's been provided by the defense. Well, this lawyer just came into this thing. Like, now he's going to be hung up on a witness list that he didn't prepare, or his client who wasn't working well with these lawyers didn't prepare, and he's hamstrung. Like, that sucks for him. Like, to sit there and say, like, I know it's easy to say this is bullshit and she's causing delay. All true. That's all true. But the reality is how this where the rubber meets the road is some appeals court is going to be sitting there saying, why didn't he give this lawyer 4 more months?
Yeah, I mean, Sue brings up a great point, because I think we've all been, like, most of us have been following this case from the start, and it's been a complete and utter joke, and it's annoying, and she's just awful to watch. She's smug. But yeah, what if the judge delays it for them and then she fires Jamie Owens? So it's like,
I
mean,
get it, but some of
yeah.
what Jamie Owens is saying, here's a couple of things you have to consider too, and that's a great question, and that's what's happened in the case, and that's what the judge keeps saying. I get it, that's
Yeah.
why we're on that hamster wheel. But Owens is,
Yeah.
she did have one private lawyer at one point. He's indicated, despite the history of this case, he's willing to move forward. He's her private counsel. He wants to try it. He's identified witnesses. He's moving the case. He's pushing the rock up the hill, finally. So
Yeah.
to me, I'd say give him, you can't give her a 10th lawyer and not give that 10th lawyer the time to defend the case. You just can't.
And I mean, so, okay. No, you're right. I just think that watching the video, or both videos, I should say, and hearing her, and God, when he says,
Can we agree though? Let me ask you a question. All right. And this is not a bleeding heart. This is somebody who has seen a lot of stuff. Okay. Do you believe there's truly crazy people in this world?
Yeah, of course.
So do you believe this woman could be a little crazy or a lot crazy?
I think that, like I said, I think she's yeah, she's crazy, but I wouldn't give her the insanity plea. You know what I mean? Like that
That's
would
a
never
different
work.
question. I think the fact is you cannot ignore her issues, and the very things that put her in the position she's in, okay, are the very things that are making her a difficult client and causing the delays in this case. You can't ignore that, and you can't just saddle this new lawyer with that. It's just not.
And let me be clear, when I did a somewhat detailed episode of this on the Outlier podcast, and I got my hands on a police report, one of the domestic police reports, and I mean, she was just as bad as he was. I'm sorry.
Oh.
He wasn't even like, it didn't even seem like he was like that bad. And I don't want to say, I do believe women, trust me. Sarah Boone is different. Like, I'm going to say her because, and I'm sorry, I'm whispering. I think my kids are still up, but and what got me is when he's in the suitcase and he starts calling her babe, and he's like, babe, can you just let me out? I can't breathe. And that doesn't get her. That doesn't get her to be like, this was silly. You know, I mean, what? That's pretty evil, Jarrett. That's pretty.
It's evil, and she's not playing with a full deck. Is my point. I'm just saying she's.
But she excels at everything. Okay,
she
excels at everything.
Crazy. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I was too. Crazy doesn't mean you zip your man in a suitcase, video him, and laugh and go upstairs to sleep. I agree. And also, Sue, if you look in the second video, it looks like she flipped the suitcase upside down. And on the show, I did a part 2 on Sarah Boone because I had to. I had Dr. Kendall Crowns, and he thinks that based on George's injuries, he had, a black eye laceration to his eye. He had some cuts on his head, his hands. He thinks that Sarah kicked the suitcase and beat
absolutely
the shit out of it, allegedly. But yeah, it's like, what? I mean, that's evil. That's not.
I'm not
crazy.
saying
That's
she's
evil.
in it. And I just hope I'm making my point. I'm not saying she's not responsible. I'm not saying she's so crazy she didn't know what she was doing. I'm saying that forcing the case to go to trial at this stage with this lawyer prematurely could put the case in jeopardy. That's what I'm saying. I think ultimately she will be convicted. I think ultimately, but why? I mean, you're going to be dealing with this thing for a while, because I'm telling you, a appeals court could look at it and just say they did not give him sufficient time to prepare his defense. And you don't get credit for the 8 other lawyers that came before you. You don't. Right. It's not, right. Especially the way they exited. They were clearly having communication problems with her. So you're like, oh, I'm supposed to just assimilate the knowledge that these people who ran for the hills, by the way, all their work, all their knowledge is just in yours to me, and I'm just going to be ready in a couple of weeks to try it. And that's not an excuse for her conduct. I'm just
you make a lot of sense. I mean, what you said is logical, and I probably needed to hear it, and I'm sure a bunch of us in the chat needed to hear it, because we are like just fed up with her.
Am I mansplaining?
No,
That's
I didn't think
fine.
you're no, you
I better
dude,
not.
you know I would tell you. If you're mansplaining, you know I would tell you. Or I'd be texting you right now, like, stop.
No, I
No,
just
do you think though, I feel like a lot of people think that this trial will last 2 days. It's like, hey, cool, you have it on video, you're laughing, open, open, shut, right?
this trial is going to be a battle of psychiatrists, not a who. It's certainly not a who done it.
Yeah.
This is why she done it. Like my little girl says, the math isn't mathing or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Math is
Like
math.
it doesn't take a lot of leaps to get to her. It's a question
Mhm.
of what's going on between her ears. That's where the fight is in this case. And by the way, if she claims battered woman syndrome, she admits to doing this. She
Yeah.
goes in there and says, "I did it. Here's why." And that becomes a battle of the
And they're
psychiatrist.
going to pull up those police reports, which
Oh,
are just like, I mean, it's just, they're nothing. I'm going to just tell you. And I say they're nothing only because it's Sarah Boone. Okay. Only because it's Sarah Boone. That's it. I believe all women except Sarah Boone and Amber Heard. Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But really, I believe all women except for Sarah Boone. So that's it. Hello. Thanks for joining us, True Crime Story Time. You're a little late, but that is okay. We forgive you. Maybe next
and you can
time.
replay it.
Yes, you can get the replay. And Tommy has a theory. This is an alleged theory. He said threw it down the stairs. In his opinion, I don't know how I mean, if she's the smartest woman in the world, maybe she's also the strongest, and she could have just dragged it being drunk and it was fine. But who knows? Sue, you're so funny. Sue is all about like by Sarah Boone. And I totally am with you on this. And it is
Take
funny
Karen
though.
Reed with you, Sarah Boone.
No, no, but I think it's for the people that have followed all of the hearings and just everything. It's like
I get their frustration.
yeah,
Believe me,
we are done with it.
I've been
Yeah,
standing in that courtroom,
yeah.
not on Sarah Boone, in similar cases where I want to lose my mind. I'm like, I'm never going to be rid of this case.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I know.
And there's nothing, you know what sucks too? Here's a little inside baseball. To be on the eve of trial, like to physically and mentally get yourself ready to go. And this has happened a couple of times in my career. You're literally in the courtroom. You could almost hear the footsteps of the jury, and boom, you're off for 6 months. Like the thing gets moved. Oh God, what a
Wait, you're
letdown.
what for 6 months?
You're like off, like the case gets moved, it gets continued. There's some issue. Your
Oh,
forensic pathologist was in a car accident, or there's a witness availability issue, and all of a sudden you're in April, and they're like, "Okay, come back January." You're like, "Oh, okay. I cleared my calendar for the next 3 weeks. I'm physically
oh.
exhausted already. I don't know what to do with myself."
That is so
It's
disappointing.
awful.
That must be such a letdown. Oh
It's
my
awful.
gosh. Oh my
You're
goodness.
not very pleasant to be around for the next couple of days.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine. I have to say, hearing what you said about Sarah Boone, I want to ensure she's locked up and there are no issues that she, would be able to appeal. But I have a feeling that this judge, because even before, I just remembered this, even before when she was pro se and she actually told the judge, I want a lawyer. He's like, no, you had your chance. And he made her go through all those hearings. And she actually said, Jarrett, what's sustained when he said that? It was bonkers. And so he wasn't even, when she said, and it's her right to have an attorney, right? I'm assuming if she says, I want one, it's her right to get one. He said
found
no.
she waived that. He has found she
Yeah.
waived that right and she's done so much damage to that right. He's like, you're done. We're done with lawyers for you. Like,
Yeah.
he's done a good, like the judge has done a really good job of posturing to where we're at. I know the 10th time's a charm. I have a really good feeling about this lawyer. I want to give him 4 more months.
No, but I guess my point is he already said no when she should have had that right. So I don't know if he's going to necessarily push back.
The next step will be a written motion to continue the case with a very detailed timeline of why they can't go on the 7th. And that's going to really force it's like dumping a plate of shit on the judge.
No, but I'm just saying, I don't know if he's going to go for that anymore because he's like, I've had it. You know,
You heard it here first. That written motion's coming. I guarantee that's what the next step is. It's going to be like Dr. So-and-so is unavailable the week of October 7th, and his report won't be completed into watch. That's what's going to happen.
Well, and it should. I just don't think it's going to matter. I don't know. But I kind of hope it does now so we can just ensure that she is where she is supposed to be. And I think in Florida, I think the minimum is like 16 years for second degree or something like that. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
For a long time.
Wait, but I don't feel like that's for murder. I feel like that's not that long.
On second if she's convicted, but
what is it?
It's 16 to 32, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. That's, I mean, I just don't think 16 years for her for what she did. I don't know. Whatever. I probably shouldn't. What she allegedly did. Actually, no, she did it. We have it on video. Do I have to say allegedly when we have it on video?
Well, no, and she's going to have to admit it based on what I anticipate her defense is. So, but it's still allegedly.
Okay, fine. Really? Even with video footage? That's so crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Even after people admit it, until they're convicted, got to be careful. They want to get sued.
True. Even Keefe D running his mouth, it's still alleged right. With Tupac. Okay, well, this was a very fast hour and 5 minutes. I really enjoyed having Mizzy on. I really enjoyed discussing Sarah Boone with you because we just haven't gone there yet. But we'll have to do a follow-up episode.
Absolutely. Oh, I can't wait.
When the motion is filed, right, by her defense team.
Yes, the inevitable motion to continue.
Yes. Well, Trial Junkies United, thank you for coming and joining a little bit late. You can catch the replay. We appreciate all of you, and we will be back probably with another video this week and definitely another live or two next week. So I am going to play our outro for once. We've never played this outro, or I've never played it before, and I'm trying to look for it to make us more professional. You know what? I might not have it anymore. So yeah, so I don't have it. So I will not be playing the outro, but I'll play the intro again. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Lauren. Take care, everyone. Happening. You're trying to figure out ultimately